All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is William Isaacs, and I work for the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm also moderating this session, so please understand that I've got a lot that's on my plate right now. So before we begin, I wanted to make sure that I communicated to everyone that there's a questions box in the GoToWebinar control panel. That's where, if you have a question, that you should type your answer or your question in there. At the end of the session, I will leave time for us to answer any of those questions or comments. It doesn't have to be a question, but you can put it in there and I'll see that. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. This year, ESRI, Tallahassee-Leon County GIS, and Panda Consulting are our sponsors, and they've enabled us to be able to put this this SHRUG workshop on virtually this year. So let me go ahead and bring this down. All right, so my presentation is on emergency management at FDOT with GIS. And I don't have a PowerPoint slideshow or anything like that to show everyone. What I do have is a live demo of all of our GIS tools that we use for emergency management. And I know that's really brave. So please like I said, bear with me here while we go through this presentation. But I've given this one before as a live demo at SHRUG, so I don't think that we'll have any problems. The only difference is that we're on a virtual platform this year. So without further ado, here we go. One of the big concerns that everybody has with emergency situations is, where is the damage? And at the beginning of this whole process, our emergency management office came to us and said, hey, we would like to leverage some of the GIS tools that we have available, and Survey 123 had just come in at the time. So one of our emergency management personnel, David July, who happens to be on the call, I believe, was able to go and create a damage assessment survey in Survey 123 based upon all of the paper forms that the districts had. Now, to a little bit of a backstory, FDOT is a distributed agency, so we have a central office and then districts throughout the states who have secretaries, and those secretaries answer to our secretaries, so on and so forth. But they basically operate autonomously for the most part, and then they answer up to central office to conglomerate all that into a statewide picture. So every one of those districts did it a little differently. So what we were able to do is conglomerate those all together into one damage assessment survey in Survey 123. And this is our roadshow or sample Survey 123 that we use for training. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And for everybody who's not seen Survey 123 before, you have to enter into the survey once you've opened the survey. And this is the menu, and there will be some other options here in a minute after we go ahead and collect some of these. So let me go ahead and collect a point. So the first thing that I would do would be to click on or tap the collect button. This is the same as on a mobile device. So one of the questions that we added in after the fact was district. And I know that there are some new capabilities in hosted feature services that Will was talking about in the last session about how we can use location for filtering, so those location-based views. But we currently use a question in our survey, and that allows for the districts to cross support, meaning someone from District 3 could go to District 2 and vice versa and support recovery efforts there. So that's a huge benefit to having that type of question in your survey. So I know that I'm currently District 3, so I'm going to go ahead and click District 3 and continue on. See these red asterisks, they're all required questions, okay? So they have to be answered. So I'm just gonna say that this is a roadway. Now, one of the new things that we've added in off of previous versions was instead of a 1 to 10 how bad is it hurt severity scale. We've added a low, medium, and high red, yellow, yellow or green, yellow, red, like a stoplight, because it simplifies the identification of issues or identification of severity. With some of these individuals who are going out to the field may not be familiar with all types of infrastructure out there. This gives them a way to kind of guesstimate, and they don't have to be subject matter experts on every piece of infrastructure in order to communicate, hey, that stop sign's completely blown over, or there's a bridge that's been, eroded a little bit, but I can't tell, so I'm going to say that it looks, like a medium or a high. I don't know, but I'm going to give you the best information that I have. So I'm going to say that this is a low one, and I'm going to say that it is due to erosion. Now, one of the things that we've also included in here was the ability to take photos. Now, this is native to the Survey 123 platform, but we allow for the user to add photos to the survey, so that way it's a question that we've added in, and it allows them to communicate with photographs. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Well, we can include up to 5 photos in this survey. So I'm not going to add a photo with the camera because I'm not using it for my webcam, but I should be. So hang on, let me go ahead and share my webcam here, so y'all can see my face. Sorry about that. I meant to start that earlier. But going back to what I was saying, I'll go ahead and select a photo from my device's memory. So that can be anything on your device, whether that's a tablet or a cell phone. You can go in and click basically any photo from the device's memory. So you may be able to get a better photo with the native camera application that's on the device, whether that's like I said, the Android app or the Android camera app or the iOS camera app. But for us, I'm going to go ahead and select the photo because I'm on a computer right now. So here's a little thumbnail that I've got for the damage assessment that I created for ETA, and that satisfies the issue there for photo, whereas it's being required, so I can actually submit the survey now. So here's the other thing that I want to talk about. So you have the ability to move the map around a little bit, not a little bit, but a lot of it, when you have a survey that you're working with. Now, I'm not going to give you too much information because currently I'm at home and I don't want y'all to know exactly where I am, but you can open that up and move the map around to pinpoint where that survey really is. So meaning if you don't have great accuracy, you can actually move that around. You can zoom in on the map. If you don't know where you're at exactly based upon the roads, you have the ability to change the base map in there by clicking on the base map button. And then you can go into all of the base maps that are shared with your organization. So I'm going to use the ESRI's Arcgis Online aerial imagery with labels, so that way we can get a little bit of a understanding of where we're at. So I know that I am at this intersection right here, which is Appalachian Parkway and Capitol Circle, and I'm going to drop my pin there, and there's my lat and my long, and I'm going to go ahead and click the checkbox. So now you can see in the map that is where I'm at, and it's got my correct lat and long there, and I can go on to complete some more questions about that survey, but none of these other questions are required. So what that means is that at this time, this survey is complete, but we have the ability to give more details if we wanted to, or if we had time. That was one of the considerations that we had when we created the survey was, does the surveyor have enough time to complete all of the questions and make them all required so we get as much information as possible, or do we, have the core questions and then give them the option so that way they can add some more to it if they have the time. And what we see a lot of times is that it's kind of up to the district whether or not they complete all of the questions or whether they complete certain subsets of the questions. Now, if I had selected a different type of infrastructure, meaning I selected something like signals, what that does is allows us to use the skip logic that's built into Survey 123 and pop up a different subset of questions. So down here, under the signal details, we have other information about signals, which again don't pertain to roadway. So seeing as we're at an intersection here, I'm going to go ahead and leave it with signals, and then I'm going to select that it's dark and the signal does not have any power right now, and this is a major intersection, and it's obviously majorly damaged, so I'm going to say major. I'm going to put in here that this is a test point, and now I have completed my survey. So I'm going to go ahead and click the checkbox. Now I got some options here. Had I not had cellular service, I wouldn't get the option to send now because you have to have data available to send the survey. However, the device's location does not depend upon cellular signal. Cellular signal is used to enhance the device's location. It is actually a GPS chip, much like the old school windshield dash GPS devices. They have a chip in there. Now, one caveat to that is that if you have an iPad, Apple does not include the GPS chip if the device is not cellularly enabled, meaning you have to buy the upgraded version that could have a cellular plan on it in order to get the GPS chip on the iPad. And if you did not get that version, you do not have a GPS chip, so you cannot collect with GPS on that device. So what that means is that you have to get that cellular enabled, but you don't have to have a cell phone plan in order to get the GPS chip. I don't believe that's the same with any of the Android tablets, but on a cell phone, obviously that's included, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and click send now and submit this survey in. And you'll see that it's gathering all that data. Again, if I had not had cellular service or been connected to a Wi-Fi hotspot, then I would not have been able to submit that information. And it would have gone into a outbox, an area in Survey 123 on the device in the memory that allows you to send later when you get to an area where you do have some sort of cellular conductivity, or you get to a mobile hotspot or a Verizon wireless or Sprint or T-Mobile hotspot that they've brought in to support the emergency recovery that you can connect to and send your information that way. So now that we've got one survey sent, we have an outbox, or sorry, a sent box here that we can click on and go back in and see that we've got this. This is our point that we submitted. So that's just a little information there. Now, if you want to check to see whether you've got good accuracy, you can click this button right here. Again, that shows my location, and I'm not going to do that right now while I'm on preview. So that kind of wraps it up for the Survey 123 portion of it. The survey, again, it's a conglomeration of questions that's been put into the Excel template for Survey 123 and built out with some skip logic, so that way our field crews have the ability to answer those questions quickly. So with that done, I'm going to move into what it looks like on a map. So when you publish a survey, you get a hosted feature layer in ArcGIS Online. And what that means is you get a layer in your ArcGIS Online. And if I move out and zoom back in, it should refresh and we get this point here. Maybe not. Let me refresh the whole page. Oh no. There we go. So this survey, I've been working on it a little bit over time, and we have a little glitch in this one, but it doesn't affect our production ones. Let me go ahead and change this over so that way we've got the correct symbology here. Okay, that's why it wasn't showing up. So currently, I dropped that point right here, and now you can see that when the surveys submit in Survey 123, it comes into the hosted feature service in ArcGIS Online. We can see that all of the questions that I answered are here. The photo is here, and it collected some other information automatically, meaning that this point came in as unresolved. The issue that we're having here, and something that you might come into, is the predefined status as a capital U, whereas the survey-based predefined has a lowercase u. So it is case sensitive when it comes to that. So be mindful of that when you are setting up some of these predefined things. Anyways, let's move on. So you can see that the point came into the hosted feature layer. Now, one of the things that you can do with a hosted feature layer is bring it live from ArcGIS Online down into an Arc Pro session. And that's something that we do here at FDOT in order to add some more information to the data set. So if I were to zoom in here and hit refresh, we can see that that point comes up here on Appalachian Parkway, and we need to add some more information to it. So our Transportation Data Analytics Office was able to add in to ArcPro that correlates the lat and the long of the point to our linear referencing system to allow us to garner more information out of our roadway characteristic inventory, or RCI. So what you're seeing here is our point-to-mile point tool, and I've already preloaded it with our damage assessment and all the fields that we want to populate. So I'm going to go ahead and click run. And what this is going to do is check the column structure and see that there's 13 points that in this data set that need to be updated. And I'm currently updating them on the fly with this tool right now. So as that finishes here, it's going to save all our edits and then tell me that it finished. And now I've appended the data in the data set in ArcGIS Online with new information. So to show you that, I'm going to open up the attribute table here. I'm going to auto hide that, and then I'm going to sort descending on the start column, which is auto generated. And we'll see here that this selected record, which is this guy, is the point that I just dropped from Survey 123. Now I've enhanced that with our point-to-mile point tool. And you can see down here that we now have our roadway ID, our derived mile point, the distance to that mile point, meaning that it was off the center line of the road, the unit that we calculated that in, and that we've added that it's in Leon County and that the roadway that it's closest to is Capitol Circle Southeast. So that correlates with that roadway ID. We've also got the the latitude and longitude that's been appended to the data set automatically. So what that allows us to do is process that live data in an Arc Pro package and create things on the desktop that we can show to leadership. We can also do that in the web, which is one of the big reasons for doing this in ArcGIS Online. Is that way it can be accessible by non-GIS technical individuals. So this is a different data set. So that point that I dropped for the demo here is not in this data set. This is actual live data from Tropical Storm Eta. So what you're looking at here is real points that came in from Tropical Storm Eta. And this is our dashboard. So this is the statewide damage assessment level 1 operations dashboard. This is what we display in the State Emergency Operations Center for our leadership to navigate through and look at points and some of the widgets that we have set up. So again, going back to the survey, we're correlating the green, yellow, red stoplight color severity to our severity bar chart here to make it really quickly accessible for information, meaning that we understand really quickly that level 3s are high. So we can click on that and it filters automatically in the web map area. So now we can visually see what's going on. We can see which districts. There's 47 of those that were submitted that are category 3 or in the severity. What are the statuses of those? Which district was, which district was impacted the most? So we can filter on down to District 4. What type of infrastructure was impacted the most? We know that as it was a tropical storm, District 4, which is this area down here, was impacted by a lot of localized flooding. So we can zoom in here now and take a look at some of those. Where were they? Where it hurt the most. So we can actually symbolize the same data set with a heat map in here. So we can view that where most of the damage was like that by changing the layer. But we can see that they've gone through and corrected all those flooding statuses, which is why they're no longer in red as unresolved, and they're in the resolved status. But if we want to take a look at some of those images that they submitted, we can scroll down here. We can see that we've got the data that we've appended with our Point-to-Mile Point tool and see some of the images. So this was collected live in the field from one of our field crews as there was localized flooding down in South Florida from Tropical Storm Eta. So that's great, right? We've got this really awesome dashboard that we can filter on and discover where it hurts the most and where we need to send the most crews and the most infrastructure to repair the issues. But what else can we do with it? There's not a whole lot of other data that's in here. Well, we have our GEMS application, and our GEMS application is a geographic emergency management system. So it's one of those catch-all applications where you chunk every bit of information that you can into it to generate as much situational awareness. So you can see the first layer that we have in here is our damage assessment level 1 ETA, which allows us to navigate throughout the whole state and look at all of these layers or all these points in relation to other information. A couple of the hurricane events, the tropical storm events that happened this year that we were geared up for impacts didn't really come ashore, but we were concerned about where they were tracking and how they were looking in comparison to other events. So we've included in here Hurricane Michael's points and track from the National Hurricane Center. So these are observed points where the center of circulation was, and we can compare that to live events. So actually, I think we have a current live event, which is IOTA down here. So this is what the National Hurricane Center's layer, which is in the Living Atlas, and we've included into GEMS, looks like compared to what our historical data is that we've pulled again from the Hurricane Center. And then we've got the, let's see, what layer is this that I can't remember the name of. It is the National Hurricane Center Atlantic Outlook layer, which is in, again, the Living Atlas. It has an area of probability that's going to develop over the next 2 days, 0% chance there, 20% over the next 5 days here. And this is, again, this is live data coming from the National Hurricane Center that we're consuming in an application in our organization. So that way we can compare it to other data that we have internal, like our damage assessment, or if we want to take a look at our, let's go with the cut and toss. So we have our cut and toss crew routes in here where they've gone through and they've cleared, where they've not cleared, where they've already cleared and it's clear, meaning that it's already good to go, or they couldn't get all the way through and it's one lane passable, some other information along those lines in relation to, you know, live data coming from the Living Atlas. Let's look at our real-time traffic volumes. This is a data set that, again, our Transportation Data Analytics Office has put together, and it's using our traffic counters that are out on the road to count real-time volume. And we activate these in emergency situations so that way we can garner more information, and they change based upon the value, whether that's an increase or decrease over the historical norm. So we can quickly understand what's going on with a visual geographic interface rather than a tabular. However, we can look at tabular data here. We can look at the information in the attribute table in the web mapping application. We can also map disaster debris sites. So these are sites that the Department of Transportation and the Department of Environmental Protection have gone through and certified as areas where our cut and toss crews who are cutting and tossing the debris on the roads can gather up, truck off, and dump it into an area that they've certified already for dumping sites. So we map those out so that way our crews know where they can go. We've done some training with the State Emergency Operations Center as far as nuclear power plants and volcanic eruptions, which we've included in here for some of those training evaluations or training route processes, training evolutions. We've got information about our bridges. We've got information about our multimodal points. So whether that be an airport or a port, like a municipal airport, or like a seaport, put those all on the map so that way we have a quick reference to it. Rest areas and welcome centers, so that way we have quick reference to it. Our camera feeds from Florida 511, we put them in here so that way we can see where the storm's going, where the current radar is. Actually, I wonder if we've got any weather systems. There we go. There's some of the weather systems that would show up. Looks like they might be getting a little bit of snow and sleet up there in New York area. But knowing where the intense rain is might preclude to where we send crews out immediately, whether that's high rain, intense rain radar images, or whether we're looking at some wind speed indicators coming off of some of our bridges, or whether we're coming off of NOAA weather data, some of those wind speed indicators from airports or from weather buoys out in the Atlantic and the Gulf. We have our emergency detour routes. So you can see here, we currently have one still up for the Pensacola Bay Bridge. For those of you who know, we had a barge hit the bridge during one of the tropical events this year. I think it was Sally. And as it came through, it took out a section of the bridge. And we have a detour that's up here in the map that we know where the closure is and where the detour route is. This data is also transmitted to Florida 511 for the public to view, where there's a closure and what the approved detour route is. We have fueling sites, so all the gas stations, which helps us plan for evacuation routes and where to route crews that need fuel. Alternative fueling stations has been something that we've been interested in, which is the electric vehicle fueling stations and where those are located. So we can see some of those on the map. ESU activation. So what that is it's a emergency shoulder use route. Some of our routes have the ability to be turned on to emergency shoulder use, which means that we open up either the outside or the inside lane, and we show that on the map with a change in the color. So you can see here that this section of I-10 is currently a orange color, which means that it is exempt and there might be something going on in that area like construction, and we can't activate that section of the emergency shoulder use. Again, all information that our leadership wants to know in the event of an emergency, so that way we can give them the best information that they have at the time to make the best decisions. And that's basically a lot of what is in GEMS. So with that, let me open up one other application here. I want to go to, I didn't have this one open. now would be a good time if you want to ask some questions in the questions area. All right, so what this is our collector apps. So not only can the field crews go out to the field and collect damage assessments, but back in the office, if they've got information about a damage assessment that needs to be added, we can add that information through another web map that we've deemed the damage assessment collector app. And what that does is it gives us the ability to use the edit widget to drop a point onto the map. So currently we've got damage assessment in here. I'm not going to go ahead and drop a point just for demonstration purposes because that is a live data set. But you can see here that we have the ability to drop points from the web map and edit all the information about those points in a web mapping application. So that way the user in the district can edit their view of the data. So that leads me to the next point that I have. We have this damage assessment roadshow 2020 layer, which is the whole the whole layer, but we break out views for each of the districts. So that way, though they can support each other in the field with survey 1, 2, 3, they can't edit each other's data inadvertently. So all of the districts have their own dashboards and views. So if I open up the District 2 dashboard, you'll see that there's no data in here because this is configured for Tropical Storm Eta, and you can see here that is the same. So the collector and the dashboard display the same information, but the collector allows them to edit the information and get reporting off of it. So one of the creative things that we were able to do was use the screening tool to generate a CSV report and export that out for the users. So if we type in 2 there to select the district by the boundaries, it's actually reaching out to one of the layers that we have in ArcGIS Online for the district boundaries. And we're going to click the report, and it's going to select all the damage assessments that are inside this polygon, which is the district boundaries. And you can see, obviously, we've got 0 in here, but it would be in this report, and then they would be able to download or print that. So if I go to, let me see if I can find the District 4 one real quick, because I know that that one is there. There we go. They've got some data in there. So if I wanted to report all of this information, I could type in 4 here again, like I was doing in the other collector application. Select by District 4. It pulls up the polygon. I'm going to click report, and it's pulling in damage assessment Dorian. So actually, that's not Dorian. That's a configuration issue. It's still ETA, but this was generated in the widget, so that name needs to be changed, and that's something that I didn't configure. But it is the correct data set. So if I click download, I can select the format that I want to download it in, whether that's CSV, a file geodatabase, or a shapefile. So I'm going to go ahead and click CSV, and then it gives me the option to download that. And that would give me a comma-separated value sheet of all of the information from this data set that was inside the polygon for that district. And that allows them to use that in a tabular format, whether that's in another application like Access, which one of our districts does, or Excel, which another district does. It allows them to get the data out of the GIS and into a format that's really familiar to them. So let's see. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen here and take a look and see what we've got for some questions here. Okay, so I have a few questions. Let me pop that out here. The first question that I've got is from Tony Cooper. Why wasn't district added before? So in the previous versions of the survey, the districts had paper forms. So on those paper forms, they knew what district they were a part of, and it was going to those individuals in that district. It wasn't until we started developing the digital version in GIS with Survey 123 that it became a question of what district is this for, and we needed to enable that as a way to go. Originally, like I said, it was the paper forms. And when we conglomerated all of those questions into one, it was never thought to add in a district. So in previous versions of this damage assessment in Survey 123, it was not a question, so we had to add that. So I hope that answers your question there, Tony. The next question that I have is from Dwayne Treaton. Are you hosting your layers in the cloud on AGOL or portal or locally using, let me make sure that I can open up the rest of that. Right. So are you hosting your layers in cloud on ArcGIS Online or portal, or locally using enterprise and map services? So all of the things that you've seen today in GEMS and in damage assessment are in ArcGIS Online. One of the things that keeps this part of that workflow is the scalability of ArcGIS Online. So we never have to worry about whether or not we have enough system resources to enable all of our users to access our data during an event. And we don't have to worry about, is that server impacted by the weather? Meaning, if it's at a data center here in Tallahassee and we get a Category 5, is the building that server physically in redundant with another location? Does it have backup generator power? Are the communication lines that are feeding the internet, are those going to be impacted by the weather? We don't have to worry about any of that with this configuration. We're allowing ArcGIS Online and the ESRI platform to support that workflow, and they have complete redundancy with other data centers. So if one site goes down, another site will have that data and make it readily available. So that's one of the major considerations that we took when we were looking at ArcGIS Online versus hosting the data locally in a portal or in a server environment that we manage. However, some of the data that we use in GEMS and in our portal, because there is a behind the firewall version of GEMS that we collaborate with our portal, uses data that is behind the firewall and solely on our enterprise instance. So we keep that behind the firewall. So that kind of leads me into the next question that we have, and I hope that answers yours, Dwayne. Is GEMS an internal use only site? So yes, currently GEMS is only available to FDOT ArcGIS Online members. So whether that's consultant staff who is working for FDOT and has an ArcGIS Online instance or a named user, or whether that's an FDOT employee who has an ArcGIS Online named user, or an FDOT employee who has access to our portal, because again, we've shared that through a collaboration from ArcGIS Online to the portal, so that way they can view it in there. So in that environment, as long as you have behind the firewall access, meaning that you're an FDOT employee and you've got a named Active Directory user, you can access the GEMS on portal without having to have a ArcGIS Online named user. So that with some of the licensing agreements makes it really easy for you to share it out to almost your entire organization without taking up named users as a creative way to get through that. So let's see, do we have any more questions? I know I've covered a lot, and that was like drinking from a fire hose there. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Again, like I said, I don't have any PowerPoints, and this was all live demo. So for the last almost 45 minutes, we've been seeing live action data, and I'm not going to be able to share that out to the public. So George, no, the GEMS V2 application is not available to the public. I hope that answers your question. If that doesn't, I will include my email address, and you guys can act. Okay, so you got that, George. Okay, cool. However, I know, George, you work with DEP, and DEP does have an ArcGIS online. If they were interested in, and I could talk to Parker about this, if they were interested in setting up a GEMS-like application for DEP, I'd be more than happy to work with him on that. It's a conglomeration of a lot of things. A lot of living atlas stuff. Oh man, I didn't even go over half the stuff. I could, let me go ahead and share my screen again so you guys can see this. So one of the really cool things that I missed here was the swipe tool. So let's go down here to the category 4 slosh mom. So this is the from the National Hurricane Center's storm surge inundation models, and this is some of the analysis that you can do with GEMS that I totally left my mind as I was presenting here. So let me turn on that layer. So if I want to swipe away this this layer, I can do that with this swipe tool. So I can zoom in here to the St. Mark's area, and I can take a look at and see, you know, how bad is the storm surge going to be here? Well, if I open up my legend here, we can scroll down and we can see that some of these areas, because they're all salt marshes down here in the National Refuge, are going to be, you know, 19 to 20 feet above sea level, of ground level, which is mean sea level. So what that does is allow us to do a little bit of analysis on the fly and you know, predictive modeling with information that's being published by the national agencies that predict storm surge and things like that. Again, this is the maximum envelope of water. This is a large exaggeration, but yeah. So that, again, that's some of the things that you can do. You can add your own layers, meaning if you wanted to go out to look for other information that's out there, you can search the organization. You can even add a file directly into the widget here. We can use the national grid to locate some information. So by defining a national grid and drawing that, that's a widget that's included in ArcGIS Online. We can get driving directions. We can draw on it. We can look at, you know, what are the category scales here. Again, GEMS is a really big catch-all application that we can use to generate situational awareness. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out to the presentation. And if you have any questions, I will put my email address out in the chat, and you can send me any of your questions that you have directly there. All right. Well, thank you all for coming to the presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. And again, I want to thank our sponsors, ESRI. Let me put this slide back up here. I want to thank ESRI. I want to thank TLC GIS and Panda Consulting. Thank you all for attending the presentation, and have a great day.